I know it looks pretty nice for a budget cabin. Come on. Don't argue with me. Welcome to Life on the Moose, and welcome back if you've been here before. If you woke up this morning thinking to yourself, gosh, I would really like to watch a quality video today about putting insulation in a cabin, specifically in the ceiling, you've come to the right spot. We're going to put in insulation today in the Spur Cabin. In fact, I have a bundle right here. That bundle was left over from the Ridge Cabin, so I'm going to finish that up. I do have a couple of bundles in the truck. We will need probably 2 more. So let's get going on that. I did spend about 10 minutes and I looked at all the cracks and crevices for daylight coming through, and I caulked everything. So we're tight. We're looking good now. So I'm just going to use fiberglass insulation. Just a note on that. Is this the best possible insulation you can use nowadays? Probably not. Am I going to employ every technique possible to get the maximum capacity of insulation value? No. There's a couple of reasons. I like to do things as best as I can on this, of course, but that always comes with a caveat: budget. This is a budget cabin. I know it looks pretty nice for a budget cabin, but budget is a big deal for us. We're not made out of money, and plus, I don't want to set an example where, you got to spend $40,000 to build a cabin like this. Not even close. This is going to be one heck of a lot warmer with insulation than without insulation, even though it's not perfect. So just know that when I'm building a house, I will certainly, whoa, there's a step right there just in case, so be careful. So when I'm building a house, I'll certainly pay attention to the latest technique, the latest materials and whatnot, just so I can maximize the insulation value. This, I'm not so concerned about. This stuff is R30 insulation. Of course, it's meant to go between rafters that are on 24-inch centers. And each piece is 4 feet long. So I'm going to use this hammer stapler. It's a Stanley heavy-duty stapler. I've used it in the past. It'll be just fine. I also cut this piece of plywood last year while I was putting insulation in the Ridge Cabin. This is exactly 2 feet long. I did mark it out every 6 inches. Actually, I marked it every 3 inches, so that if I need to cut something, I can just use this to actually measure the insulation as well. Plus, as you're going to see later, I can kneel on this, compresses the insulation, makes it nice and flat. So then I just take the straight edge, cut it, and we're good to go. Well, I'd sure like to get a couple of volunteers, but asking someone to help you do insulation is like asking someone to help clean out your septic tank. Okay, maybe it's not quite that bad. Insulation, I've mentioned this in the past, it's not my favorite task to do. Question for everybody: is insulation your favorite task to do? I didn't think so. But like I've also mentioned before, a task that I don't like to do, if it's part of building a cabin in the middle of nowhere, I'm perfectly fine with it. Okay, if you're doing insulation, get a jacket or some coveralls or something that's slick. Can you hear it? Nice slick material, that way the insulation won't latch on to my flannel or anything else. It's pretty sticky, kind of annoying. This has a hood. I don't know if I'll use that or not. But, and I also have a trusty mask, because I love wearing masks. Let's put up some insulation. Flanges. Who doesn't want to talk about flanges? So this insulation has flanges on either side, both sides. You can see that. The big debate is, do these flanges get stapled to the face of the wood member, of the rafters in this case, or do they get tucked in between? You probably saw I am tucking it in between and nailing it to the side of the rafter. I was told, or maybe I did some reading, the fire department likes to see these on the face of studs when you're putting this on the wall, because when you put it to the side of the stud, it creates just a little bit of an air gap there. And so if this is vertical, you have this air gap shooting straight up, and that creates a chimney effect when things are on fire. So we wouldn't want that. I have seen plenty of people put this on the walls, in between the studs. I don't know which way I'm gonna do in the walls. So on the ceiling, I am gonna put it in between. So which one should you do? Whatever you want. Well, actually, the drywallers, they really don't like when you put the flange on the face of the stud or on the face of the rafter. They want it between, otherwise it gets in the way. If staples aren't in all the way, they get in the way. If these flanges are wrinkly or sticking up, it creates an uneven surface for the drywall. So I can see that from a drywaller standpoint. So these pieces don't quite go all the way to the bottom. So I'm gonna have to come back later after I use my whole pieces and tuck some insulation in there. I have a couple more left of the old stuff, so let's put that up and keep going. Isn't this fun? Aren't you just having the time of your life? You didn't expect an insulation video to be this much fun, did you? Come on, did you? bring up two different things. Number one is ventilation. If this were a residence, permitted structure, year-round, heated all the time, I would have ventilation in my bird block, and I would also have baffles that leave you about an inch, inch and a half or so of space, of dead air, above the insulation. That's what the baffles are for. To get that continuous airflow from the top, behind the insulation, and then out the bird block. I don't have any of that here. I'm perfectly fine with that because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, this is not going to be heated all the time. And the other reason is this is a dry climate. If I was on the coast, if I was in the south, northeast, yes, I would be concerned about that. I'm just not concerned about it here. This is going to be just great based on the intended purpose of this cabin. The other thing I was going to mention is R value. This is R30. I think that the code requirement for a ceiling now in a residential unit is 50 at this latitude. This is actually a little less than R30 because you're not supposed to compact the stuff. These rafters are 2x8s, so I am having to compress it a little bit. The only other option I had handy for where I picked up this insulation was an R21 that was made for 2x6 construction. And I wanted a little more than that. This is probably not R30 anymore because it is compressed a little bit. You know, maybe R26 or 27, just a guess. But you know what? It doesn't really matter a whole heck of a lot. This thing's gonna be warm. It's gonna be quiet. Are you getting hot yet? Okay, all my bats are in. Check it out. It's getting balmy in here. Okay, now I just have to finish up those ends right here. There's about 3 or 4 inches, depending on the space, about 3 or 4 inches to fill. But I did find some R21 insulation meant for 16-inch centers. So I'm just going to cut that 24 inches long, and then I'm going to rip them in half So I have about 8 inches, and then I'll just fluff it up, shove it in the corners, and it'll be fantastic. Okay, we're almost finished with this. Man, if you've made it this long, you deserve a gold star or something, whatever sounds good to you. You deserve it. Let's finish this up. All right, there you have it. Insulation in the ceiling. I'm happy about that. Here, let me give you a closer look. That's it for this episode. Just like that, we're finished up. I'm happy about that. Thanks for helping. Speaking of helping, my wife and I were talking the other day, and she asked me how many people that watch the video read the video description. I had no idea. There's a lot of stats that YouTube provides, and maybe they provide that one, but I just don't know for sure. So I said, why don't I ask? I guessed to be like 1 out of 10, maybe. I don't know. I don't always do it. And you won't hurt my feelings if you don't. Don't worry about that. I'm just curious completely. Drop me a yes or a no, or can't stand your videos, or no, don't do that. You'll hurt my feelings. The whole conversation came up because my wife and I just added product links to the video descriptions. I've had a lot of people ask me what product I use, what a particular tool might be. If I can help you out, that's awesome. It would actually help me out too, not gonna lie. It doesn't cost you anything more, but just by clicking on the links through my video, that helps me out. Even if you buy something else, it still helps me out. And as time goes on, I'll update that list with the newest video that I have. And just to let you know, I put a disclaimer right there as well. I'm not gonna recommend anything I wouldn't use, so don't worry about that. I do appreciate the comments, and when I ask questions, you answer them. And I've said it before, this is the best community. There's no channel out there that has better subscribers. Don't argue with me. Wait, why would you argue with me? Next time, I think we can put wood on the ceilings. We have a good idea in mind, and I'll let you know next time, so make sure you come back. Any guesses on what I'm gonna do on the ceiling? All right, I gotta go wash the insulation out of my eyes. My glasses are getting fogged up, so I couldn't use my glasses. All right, enough of me complaining. Thanks again. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Take care.